Hey guys, it's Kevin with Blip Match, and today I'm really excited to bring you guys a preview of the prototype of Loyal Vigil for Netherwatch. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that I recently did a review of the Netherwatch prototype from Mariucci J designs. And this is the Loyal Vigil expansion that is available right now through the crowdfunding project, which is on gamefound. So I will link that in the description if you haven't checked that out yet. If you don't know anything about the game, I would suggest go look at my other videos. There's the review and the components overview for Netherwatch, because that gives you an overview of the most of the game. This here is specifically for the Loyal Vigil expansion. Now, Jonathan from Mariucci J Designs does also have some really good videos on the base game on his YouTube channel, explore it. And just to get the disclaimers out of the way, this is not sponsored content, so I am doing this because I love this game. It's a lot of fun, but they did send me a copy of the Netherwatch prototype and the Loyal Vigil prototype for the review. So now that that's out of the way, also keep in mind that this is a prototype, as I've mentioned now, so these components will definitely be changing before the end. They're not final. So now, to get started, this is the rulebook. Going to put it a little more into focus here. So this is pretty cool here. You see the skull in the back here in the fours. I didn't even notice that for a while after I got it, but really nice touch. Not a thick rule book. I'm going to go a little more into depth in the rules in this one since they haven't been covered. Now, when you start a game of Loyal Vigil, it'll generally be the same as the base Netherwatch game. You're going to start with a scenario that's either going to be a green scenario, which is recon. So those are the easiest ones. Or you're going to have a intermediate scenario, which is the containment ones. So they're orange, yellow. And then you're going to have the three extermination scenarios, which are red. So as opposed to the base game, which had one green, three yellows, and two reds, in this one you get three reds and two yellows. So a little bit more difficult scenarios that are given with this one, but you can still start with the easier ones, and that's fine. So what the difference is going to be when you start the setup for this is that you're going to be using map tiles, because instead of having the mansion, which is all really laid out and it tells you which sides, this is a system that will randomly generate a map as you play using these exploration tiles. So that's what's the biggest part of Loyal Vigil that makes it different from the base game. So when you start, you're going to still have a setup instructions, and that's going to tell you, okay, so in this case, use this here. So this is the main tile that starts the game. It has the HQ on it, so that's where you connect to the HQ van, just like the front door in the mansion. And that's going to always be static. It has a rift already on it, number one. And everything else on those tiles works the same. So you've got these slots for the different cubes. Some of them have an electrical source. So you've got the light bulb, and that's pretty straightforward. The biggest difference is, you can see the cover token here is the same. That's where you would place one. Now, the biggest difference is you've got these little blue sort of, I don't know, tabs on the side here. And that is what is going to allow you to connect tiles. So when you see one of these and your character is on that section of the tile, this is obviously 4 sections, so it's 4 different spots that you can walk on. When you are there, you can use what's called the explore action, which is a new action. So if you look here, this is a board here for an agent. And you can see here, it's got the explore action right over here. So that tells you random map locations only. So in this case, Loyal Vigil. And if your zone has an unconnected path, draw a tile that matches the path type and connect it. Additional uses cost 1 action. So that means once per turn for free, you can actually look at the, you can actually draw a tile and put it here in one of these spots, but you have to be connected. So for example, the parking lot doesn't have a connecting slot, so you cannot use the explore action from the parking lot. How does that work? So in this case, I'm just going to do a quick setup of a scenario. So very easy here. So the Coffin Rock Campground, I'm not going to put all the different tokens out because I explained that in the base game preview. But in this case, so you would start with this, and you would start with, I already put it up here, the dirt trails. So this is essentially your starting setup that's based on the setup card. Then you flip over, and you've got all of your different operational rules, your fate effects. Again, they work the same way as they do in the base game, with the exception that obviously they reference the different tiles, and there's a lot more of them, because in the other one you have the rooms. This one you have like the manager's cabin, the hollow stump, the ranger's office. These are all found in these tiles. The biggest difference is they're random, so you don't know when you're going to get them. So if you're trying to get to a specific spot because of a scenario condition that you need to fulfill, sometimes you just need to really get out there and explore, because it could be all the way at the bottom of this stack. So if you want to expand from here, let's say you've got your character, okay, and you're on the trailhead. Well, you've got already the dirt trail, so you can go that way, but the only way to expand is up. It's blue, which means it's an exploration tile. So you would then say, okay, I'm going to explore for free, pick this tile, and in this case, it's the forest clearing. So the forest clearing has nice artwork, and it's got, you can see here, these different colors. So there's the blue, the red, and the blue. So what that means is that you've drawn what's called a slot for a special tile. So some of them don't have that. In fact, a lot of them don't. But what you have to do is you have to put them here, let's say. So let's say you want to connect to the forest clearing. You're going to connect to here. Now, you can also connect it this way, or you can connect it this way, and that's entirely your choice. And you have to make strategic choices on how to place these tiles based on where you want to go and how the other tiles are placed. Because in this case, if I were to place this tile like this, well, this special tile here, if I were to then go here and explore with another action or on a future turn, well, these special tiles are large. They have 2 squares on them and they take up a lot of space. So in this case, you could go like this, which would connect both. That's fine. You could go like this, right? But sometimes you might get some that actually will block off. Like in this one, it's a good one. But let me see if there's another one here I can find where it actually blocks things off. Oh, here's an example. So the Camp Lodge, right? The Camp Lodge goes like this. Well, now you're going to block off your connection because there is no blue tab down here. You're going to block off your connection and you're not going to be able to go through from that direction. So those are things that you have to think about, right? You could also go like this. You could also go like that, and then have to go through the dining hall in order to get up there. But there's all kinds of things that come into play. And this is how the map will expand as you go. But in general, you're going to be playing these little tiles. So see, like the wood pile. So this might take the path this way. So now all of a sudden your path is here. You're curving down this way. Or maybe you want to go upwards because you don't want to curve back this way. You can place it here. So just to show you a little bit more about how you have to be strategic about tile placement, if I were to, let's say, pick this exploration tile, well, you can see here that I've got a red and 3 blues. So it's a pretty open tile, right? I can put it pretty much anywhere. But the thing is that let's say I have this animal den afterwards, right? Well, let's say I place the forest clearing and it's like this, right? It gives me, okay, options to go here. So I have a special tile that can go that way. I have a tile down here and a tile up there. Well, if I get this animal den, I have to be careful because if I place it here, then it's a dead end, right? It doesn't have any other slots where I can expand. So that means that now I've cut off this entire top portion of the map, right? I can expand this way, but from here that's cut off. So now I've got to go either to the right or downwards. If I cut this off here, now I can go upwards, but then this downward part is all completely cut off. And that might actually be worse because if I've cut this off here, now all of a sudden I can't go anywhere because there's nothing connecting here, nothing connecting there, nothing here, nothing there. So I've essentially cut off this entire bottom portion of the map, and I would be forced to then expand it down from here if I get lucky and I have tiles that connect to there. I'm going to do a quick setup of how the board could look like when it's expanded, just to give you an idea of the scale. So I'm going to fast forward here and I'll show you guys. This is how quickly it can expand, right? And if you don't pay attention to what's going on, it can quickly get out of control, because the problem with all this is that you're essentially blocking places off. There are places where now are no longer accessible. So if you look, you started over here, right? And let's say this was, I know this is not like the way the scenario is supposed to start, but let's pretend that it was, right? Well, you had that one at the wood pile. That comes down here. Now you're here, you're blocked. You can't go through because there's no connection. So you continue down here. Now, I think I did this way, right? I came back that way, but you can see that here there was a special tile. So I added a special tile. Now this is a dead end, which means you can't get to the watchtower from here. This expands this way. This goes there. Now you can keep going in this direction. If you go this way, now see the dock came out. That was again a special tile that I added. I decided to put it this way because had I put it this way, I wouldn't be able to expand this way. But then I kind of got screwed over as well, because if you look at the torn tent, it only goes one way. So I could have definitely, yeah, put it this way, right? Expand that way. But just to show an example, if you put it this way, right, which is why orientation matters so much, now it's blocked. You cannot go this way, you cannot go that way. So I've essentially blocked off this entire bottom portion of the map. So now the only ways to expand are to go up this way. And trust me, when the demon is running after you, this can make a big difference because you can easily get cornered and killed. Now, another part of the map that's new is these hazard tiles. So this actually goes with the scenarios. So if I look at the scenario for Coffin Rock Campground, you can see these symbols here. I'm going to just bring it up here so you can see it a little better. So you can see it, there's these symbols here that are a lightning bolt. And that means that any zone, so in this case, like the stone cairn, the manager's cabin, the welcome cabin, those zones will have a hazard token spawn in them when they are revealed. So that means that, let's say, for example, I find, well, is there one here? Yeah, the welcome cabin is right here on the starting one. So I would put a hazard token here. Now, the hazard token doesn't do anything on its own like that. It's just there, but it can have very big consequences because you don't know what it is, and most of the effects of them are bad. This is the hazard reference. I'll show you guys that in a second. Now, let's say my character moves here, moves into the welcome cabin. Like I could have something here like the dirt trail, right? Expanding upwards, whatever. Let's say I'm going this way. Well, if I go through here, immediately I have to reveal the hazard. In this case, it says hide. So then you would go to your hazard reference, and depending on which difficulty you're playing on. If you're playing on initiate or you're playing on operative, you're going to use this side of the card. If you're playing on veteran, you're going to use the other side because there's a little bit more difficulty on this side. In this case, for hide, well, when it gets revealed, I have to remove the closest unoccupied cover, if possible, and then an agent may hide where this hide token is, as if it was safe cover for one action. Now, the problem with that is that's all fine. Okay, great, it's a place to hide. But if you have a cover token here that's safe cover, all of a sudden that token is gone. So it can be good, but bad at the same time, which is why I find that none of these hazards are really any good in general. There's always like, if there's something good about it, then there's usually something that will also make it slightly bad. Now let's have a quick look at the hazard reference. I think it's worth it, so I'm going to blow it up on the screen here. So the 6 different hazards you can get, okay, are anxiety, fear, hide, light, movement, and obstacle. So anxiety, that's the one is just bad. It basically makes you lose sanity, and it makes you become frightened, and it makes you move back towards HQ. Now, funny enough, I played a scenario where you start and you don't have HQ. You have to find it. You don't know where it is. And basically, so this wasn't affecting me. But in most of the scenarios, because HQ is there at the start, this will pull you back towards HQ. So it's really bad. The only thing that's good about it is that you have to end your turn on that zone to be subject to it. So at least if you stay off the tile, that's great. But the not so good part is that sometimes, well, you might want to do something on that tile and then you're subject to that anxiety. So it's something you have to manage. Now, fear, when an agent enters the zone. So see, that's worse because now it's happening when you enter it, you lose a sanity and you become frightened. Okay, or you gain breakdown if you're now at 0, and the hazard is only triggered once per agent per phase. So at least if you were to go through it and then come back, you would not be subject to it again. But the bad part is that it triggers right away. So if this is something you're just revealing randomly, it'll hit you right away. Now the hide, I already explained to that how that's good and bad. So let's just move on to light. So light is when an agent enters this zone, roll the sanity die. Then if your lit base is active, remove it. So now you're rolling the sanity die, so potential to lose sanity. You're removing your lit base. So again, all bad. However, if your lit base is inactive and you have an item with light in your inventory, like the flashlight, you may place your lit base instead. So you're still losing sanity, but at least, or potentially losing sanity, I should say, because if you roll a blank, then you're fine. But you can at least put your light on. So this is basically playing with the electrical current in your flashlight, is essentially what that's simulating. Now, the next one is movement. So the thing with the movement is that so this zone is also adjacent to the highest numbered rift in place. So that means that any tile that has the movement hazard on it will be adjacent to the highest rift. So if the highest rift on the game board is 5, all those tiles that have movement on them as a hazard will be adjacent to it directly. It's the same thing if it changes to 6 or changes to 7, that'll keep changing. The rift that's connected to those will keep changing because it's always the highest. Now, A living agent can lose sanity during a move or dash action to move into that rift zone, which is interesting. And the specter can still move into it at no cost. But the downside is the demon may always treat the hazard token with movement as adjacent, which means that it kind of opens you up to the demon always being able to go through those zones. So it can make it so if you're at the other side of the map and you think you're safe, if there's a movement token, the demon can actually go through a rift and come out there. So that's not good at all. Then the last one is the obstacle. That one's just bad. It essentially hard stops you right in there when you move through it. So if you don't know it's there, you go through it, you reveal it while you might have been on your first movement and you'll stop there. So that one's just plain bad. But that's essentially what those are. And then on the other side, you just have the same things, but they're just higher. I won't go through it, but if you guys want to pause and look at it, you'll see how they're just slightly worse than the ones on the other side because it's for veteran difficulty. Now, between the randomly generated map and the hazards, that about wraps up the differences as far as what you're going to find on the board. Now, if I'm going to move on to the next thing here, it's going to be the characters. So here is, for example, the German Shepherd. So I'm going to bring this up here so you guys can see it. So German Shepherd, this is a new playable, what's called a canine agent. So as you can see, compared to the regular agents, which are in the base game, they're fairly similar. Right? They have the same thing, a sanity tracker with a breakdown area, lit base area, manifested actions, dormant actions, unique ability, and a passive ability. So very similar in that sense. However, the biggest difference is that they have 3 utility slots at the bottom, which is completely unique to the Canine Agent. They have an accessory slot on the right, and they have a collar slot on the left. So those are the main differences with the Canine Agent. Utility slots are meant to carry items. And Canine Agents, the big difference with them is that they cannot use stuff when it's in their bottom slot. This is just a carry, so it's either you're bringing items to a human agent or you're keeping them in your utility slots to swap them into your accessory slot later on. Now the collar over here, that is a new essential item. So of course, essential item, the same deck as you would find in the base game. And these items can be grabbed at any time from HQ. Now only a Canine Agent can wear a collar. Now a human agent can carry them, but they can't use them because they have the special collar tag on them here. So if I blow it up here, you're going to see that it's got the collar tag right over here. So that means that only a Canine Agent can use that. And it's got an ability similar to all the other items where the Canine Agent can use it as appropriate. Now, accessories, which go on the right side here, that's any item that has the accessory tag on it. So a lot of the new items that come with Loyal Vigil have that tag, and that means that if it's got that tag, the Canine Agent can move it from a utility slot up to here, or just simply have it here, and they can use that item. Now, normally in one of these videos, I wouldn't do a voiceover, but I just had to do one here because in the time that I actually created the video, there were updates that the devs did to the game, which I got to see online. So I'm going to basically bring this up on the screen for you guys right now in the same way I've been doing, but just showing you the latest updated version that I don't have physically. So it's not going to be on the table in the back, but let's at least go through it because there are some really cool changes that they've done. So starting by looking at the dormant actions, we have center, and that's the first one. And the Canine Agent, as opposed to the human agent, will gain 2 sanity instead of 1 when using this action. Fetch is the second one, and that is a unique one that is for the Canine Agents and allows you to move up to 2 zones and pick up as a free action in each zone departed and entered. So you may give or receive items with any agent in those zones. So that allows you to go through zones, picking up and giving to agents at the same time as a free action. So that's very unique because normally as a human agent, you have to stop your movement and actually spend an action point to do those things in a zone. Now, as far as investigate, we know that a Canine Agent cannot actually do the puzzle. So there's no way to discard a clue to use any of the equipment. So in this case, they get to basically resolve an interaction, same thing as a human agent, but they can also have a human agent in their zone use the investigate action as a free action. So that means that although you still can't do the puzzle yourself, you can trigger the puzzle to start by allowing a human agent to do that. Or you can lose 3 sanity and place a clue in your zone. So that's why one of the big rules in the Loyal Vigil expansion is you have to always have at least 1 human agent present in the game, because the canine agents cannot investigate on their own. So that's a huge difference that there is. And so that's something to keep in mind if you're going to be playing this versus the base game. Now, because you lose 3 sanity if you want to place a clue in the zone as opposed to 2 if you're a human agent, that'll probably get left to the humans, but at least it's an option if you need to. Moving is a lot quicker. You get to move 4 zones, which makes a big difference over the course of a game. So canine agents move a lot faster. And then when you pick up, when you discard a scavenge token to draw scavenged items, you actually draw 2 scavenged items instead of 1. Then the final dormant action, which is use, you can notice that the difference between this one and the human is that you have to use one of the items that is in a category of either accessory, artifact, collar, or banishment relic, as opposed to any item, because of course there are certain items that a canine agent cannot use. Then there's the new synergy tag, which also allows canine agents to use items with those tags in other agents' inventory in the same zone. So it's a way for a canine agent to essentially use something that maybe only a human can have in their inventory. Now you also have the free actions, and drop is the first one of those, which allows you to drop an item just like a human agent would in a zone or discard it. The explore action, that's new to Loyal Vigil. Humans can do the same thing, and that's what you use in order to discover new tiles, being able to draw them and put them on the board. Heal is unique to canine agents, and that allows you to move up to 1 zone towards a human agent. So that is a way that you can actually keep moving farther than what your movement. So technically, if you were using heal in conjunction with move, and you had a human agent that you were going towards, you can help go 5 zones in 1 turn. Or another way to do it is if you were to go a little bit further than you need to get something, you can then use heal to come back towards an agent. So that can really be used strategically. Hiding is the same. Light is the same, with the exception that canine agents cannot light electrical sources. They can only light their lit base if they have an item in their inventory that allows them to do that. And unique abilities are spent the same way as human agents. Now, on the manifested action side, we have dash, which is the same with the exception that you can move 4 zones. So again, you're moving quicker than a human agent, and that's the same as the regular movement when the demon is dormant. Guarding is new, and that allows you to basically gain a sanity and become the target if you're not in breakdown. So pretty much you're like centering. So that's a way to get the heat off of a human agent if they're trying to do something, but the demon is after them. Investigate functions the same as if you were doing it as a dormant action, with the exception that you cannot spawn any clues. Moving is limited to 1 zone as with human agents, and then the pickup is also the same, where you have that additional second scavenged item you can pick up. Use is also the same as when the demon is dormant, and the free actions all remain the same as well. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the different agents. So you've got German Shepherd with Border Collie on the flip side, Great Dane, Doberman, Saint Bernard, Husky, Golden Retriever, and the Bloodhound. Now, those are the different canine agents you can get. And you might be saying, oh, well, maybe you don't want to play canine agent, you want to play a human. Can I still get them in the game? Yes, you can. So that's another cool addition. And this will kind of segue us into talking about what of this expansion does work with the base game of Netherwatch. So the first thing is these companion cards. So each canine companion is the same as the canine agents. What they have on them is instead they have a companion tag. So if I put, let's say, the German Shepherd here, you can see his name is Whiskey. He's got the companion tag, which means that he can be put onto a human agent's board. Now, the human agent has that slot on the bottom right that is for when you have a solo or 2-player game where you can have an additional item, right? Well, this is now the companion slot, and it applies for even 3 or 4-player games. So it's pretty cool. And what you got is you've got an ability on here. And you can see here the gem shows that it only goes in that 3rd slot, right? It's over here, 1, 2, 3. And you can't put it in the hands either, right? So it only goes on that spot. But what's cool is that it has actually one of the abilities. So if I actually go and I look at the, the German Shepherd, and I actually just noticed this recently when I was looking at this for this video, but the German Shepherd here has this ability here. Well, if you look at this placard here, it is one of the sections of this. So it's not like here there's like 2 different things for its passive. Well, one of them is the same one as that card. So it kind of gives you a way to bring the canine agent into the game, right, without actually having to play it and get a little bit of its benefit. Now, they can come in really handy because they can actually carry 2 items. So it could be any item. You can put them in that slot so they go under the companion. And then what they'll do is you'll be able to use a free action to bring the one item out and swap it with another item you have on you once per turn for free. So the bonus with having a companion is that you get 2 additional item slots, you get the passive ability, and those items are not too far away because, again, you have a free action every turn where you can swap it for one of your items in your other slots and put the other one back with the companion. So I think that just adding that to the base game will be a lot of fun because it's like having a canine companion with you in the house, in the mansion, and you get to carry extra stuff. And the neat part is that the canine is an essential item, which means that you can go back to HQ and you can swap for another one. So for example, in one of my games, I had the Husky. Well, the Husky does something with cold cubes. Well, the demon that I had nothing to do with cold cubes, so I went and exchanged them for another companion because I wanted something that was more useful. The demon artifacts, though. 3 new demon artifacts, pretty cool. The artwork's not done on this one, but it's the Scorched Denarius, the Ever-Burning Candle. So here I can actually give you a quick look here. So that one doesn't have anything yet, but you can at least see what it does. So Scorched Denarius, Ever-Burning Candle. So that's a new one as well, right here. And then the Ashen Poppet, which I think is hilarious. So that's another cool card. So these are 3 demon artifacts that are now going to be mixed with the 3 that are in the base game. So now you'll have a total of 6, whether you're playing Loyal Vigil or playing the base game. Then as far as initial items are concerned, so there are 3 new initial items. Now I only have 2 here, so I think that the other one was released after I got this prototype, but the first one is the dog whistle. So I mean, that one is kind of useless in the base game because it's meant for a canine agent. But I guess if you are clever enough, if you wait for a Fate 5, you can actually use it on a human agent. So could you use it? Yeah, why not, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You could start the game with it. And it could be a way to move another agent using basically as a free action by using that. But really, it's mostly going to be used in Loyal Vigil. The backpack, however, is a different item. Now, this one isn't finalized. I know there's potentially some rule changes coming to that, but it is essentially allowing you to put more items into the backpack, sort of like how the companion can put those 2 items and then you can swap them out. The backpack does the same thing, except it allows you to have more. But the downside is if you fill up the backpack, then you're essentially heavy, so you can't move as quick. So it's a cool thematic touch, but I really like it. So backpack is another item that's in the essential. Now, the other one is the one that I'm gonna bring a picture of it here because I don't have the actual card. And this one is called the Chant of Renewal. Now, this one is really cool because it allows you to renew the unique ability of a character. So normally, like we've talked before if you watch the preview of the base game, when you have a unique ability, it can only be recharged by certain things that happen in the game, like certain items in the game or events. You can't actually do it with the character itself because it's something that once you use it, it's gone. This item, which is really cool, you can start with it, which means you can put it on the floor in the HQ van, you can put it anywhere, but if at least one person has this, that means people can go back, get that item, and they can renew their unique ability, which normally you'd have to find something in the HQ items deck or maybe even the scavenged items deck, I can't remember, but that allows you to do that. So that, I think, is a hugely good addition to the game. So just on that, having that in the base game is totally worth it. Then you're going to have some HQ items. Now, I took one out here to show you because, I mean, there's, I think, 17 of them. So I'll leave most of them as surprises because they're pretty cool. But they can also be mixed in. So in this case, you've got the Emergency Beacon, which basically lets you become the target. If an agent becomes the target, they can discard this item to give it to any other agent. So essentially, it's kind of like a tag you're it, you pass on the target to somebody else. Really cool item. And it is, again, in Loyal Vigil, but you're able to mix those HQ items into the deck of the base game. So you're using essentially the same HQ items deck for, but whether you're playing Loyal Vigil or the base game. So that's pretty neat. Now, the only items that, unfortunately, you cannot use in the base game are the scavenged items. And that's because there are 15 scavenged items. I think it's 15. Yeah, it's 15. And the scavenged items are actually unique to whether you're playing the base game or not. Now they're thematic. So in this case, for example, you've got a wind-up radio, right? If you're playing Loyal Vigil. So there's a wind-up radio. You've got other things here. And you got, for example, the GPS tagger. That's another one. And again, thematic because you're in the woods, right? You're at the campground. So those items are going to be either specific. So you're going to have a deck of 15 cards for a Loyal Vigil, and you're going to have a deck of 15 cards for the base game. So that is definitely something that's different. But at least, hey, it still gives you variety, right? Because then you're not seeing the same items over and over if you're playing the two different games as far as scavenged items are concerned. So that about covers all the big changes in Loyal Vigil. I hope that was a good overview for you guys to show you exactly it. Now, I do plan on doing a playthrough, so let me know in the comments if you're excited about that. Hopefully this covers everything that you wanted to see. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.